Welcome to Attican Plays Railway Empire. All right, hi, this is Attican, and welcome to another Railway Empire quick guide. I wanted to go through the rapid expansion strategy on this video and explain why it's so important, why you need to understand it, and how we can apply it to get ourselves off to really good starts when we play Railway Empire. So let's use the new Great Britain and Ireland map because it's a cool map. And we'll go out here to my usual 1830. And let's start where we're familiar. Let's go down here to Liverpool. If I can click on Liverpool, if it'll let me click on Liverpool. There we go. And let's take the minimum amount of money that'll let us. And we're going to eliminate the competitors just because they... No. What am I saying? Here's our competitors. Let's pump them up to very hard. And the rest of it we'll leave alone. Okay. So let's go in here with the least money we can get. And let's go into our... into Liverpool. And I'm going to use... Let's just go ahead and use the general for this first one, and we can talk about in other videos the differences between the characters. But let's go as the general. Most of what I'm saying applies to every character, but it will be tweaked based on the lady getting more revenue for passengers and less for freight, and others getting more revenue for freight and less for passengers, that kind of stuff. Now we're going to ignore our tasks. Because I want to talk about this in a generic sense, and then we'll, then later we can worry about how you apply it to specific sets of tasks. So the whole idea of a rapid expansion strategy is to get your economy off to a really strong start. And I would argue that any tycoon game, any kind of real-time strategy game where you go off and fight wars like Stronghold or Age of Empires or Company of Heroes or those kind of games where you have to build an economy and then build an army, or in a game like Railway Empire where you're just trying to build the strongest economy and the strongest company that you can, it's the start that matters the most. If you get off to a great start and start really bringing in the funds, the resources, the funds, whatever this particular game needs, when you bring them in quickly and early, that's when you do well. So let's talk about why this rapid expansion strategy is so useful. And first of all, let's just quick definition of what it is. Rapid expansion strategy basically comes in a few phases. First phase is we look for beer meat lines, or in a case here of our Great Britain, Ireland, it'll be cider to ham lines. We look for cider to ham lines, and we try to connect 4 to 5 cities quickly together in a way that builds an economic footprint for our company and eliminates the competition from the key cities that we want to focus on growing. So what we're going to look for here is we'll start in our headquarters, which is Liverpool, and we see that we're making meat. So we would want to find beer, or in this case, cider. So we've got our ham, and we've got cider, so we would look for the closest cider run we could get, which would be Manchester. From Manchester, we'd say, okay, where's the next ham? And we've got options. We could go to Leeds, we could go to Nottingham, or Wrexham, or Birmingham, but we would probably go to Leeds, that's close by, and then from there, if we've got ham, then we would look for cider. An obvious place to go would be Hull, or we could go up to Middlesbrough. We could go wherever, but the idea is to get 4 or 5 and line them up, make sure that they're alternating our ham and our cider, and then if we want to go to a 5th, 4 would be the minimum I'd suggest you do. Go to 5 if you've got the money and the time, depending upon what your tasks are telling you. Maybe we do ham, maybe make a run from Hull over to Nottingham. That would be a good one. Or whatever, it doesn't matter, but make sure that you get those done. Now, why am I saying do this? First of all, if we look at the demand requirements in these cities, the key things you need up front are there are 6 items that you need for these small cities to grow, and always 2 of them are going to be whatever is meat in your map, in this case ham, and whatever is beer, in this case it's cider. So you're going to have the ham and the cider, and then you're going to have 4 raw materials. One of them is going to be whatever is needed to feed the meat, in this case pigs, it's often cattle on the other maps, and whatever is needed to feed the cider, in this case it is apples, and on other maps it would be wheat. And then typically you'll have whatever's feeding that cider is going to also be needed by itself, so every one of these cities needs apples. And then there's going to be a couple of other things. In the case of this map, it's barley and fish. Other maps, it's often logs and corn. But whatever it is, you always have these 6. So you want to get these 6 going to get these cities growing. And we have to get our city growth over 60%. And you see we're right on the edge here in Liverpool in order to make the cities grow. The other reason that this thing works is because if you have these existing businesses, if we look at, notice right here, Liverpool has 14 ham ready to export. That means that's 14 ham we could be shipping to some place that needs that. And then if we go look at Manchester, Manchester has 14 cider ready to export. And if we go to Leeds, we'll probably see a similar thing with the ham there. Leeds has 14 ham, and if we go to Hull, guess what do you think we're going to find? 14 cider. That means that there's almost 2 full trains worth of goods lined up ready to ship if we can find a customer for them. Well, the place that produces ham needs the cider. The place that produces the cider needs the ham. So we're going to have 4 train loads of goods, full trains running back and forth as soon as we create this. And then if we start getting enough to fulfill the need, then we can start picking up the pent-up passenger and mail demand and ship that between the cities. So what I'm proposing we do is set up a small station, and I'll explain why we use small. First of all, you use small because you don't have much money. When you're playing a lot of these scenarios, you have very little money. So we're going to run a train line, and I'm being very careful to make sure I have enough room to expand this way, and I'll show you why in just a moment, and then still have enough room to put another station in. Let me just make sure that another one will fit. Yes, perfect. Okay, so what we're going to do is run a line between our headquarters, whatever it creates, in this case meat, and then over to beer, or ham over to cider. And we're going to double track it, which you'll notice we're going to use the point-to-point connections because we only have a small station over here. And we'll go ahead and set our lines, and I'm going to go ahead and set this up because I want to show you what happens, what we just discussed, the beauty of this. So now we have a fully functional point-to-point double track line, and we run a line, and it's important that we run an automatic line between Liverpool and Manchester. And what's going to happen? It's going to load up with that meat that's needed in Manchester. If we go over here and run one back the other direction, automatic, what do you think it will do? Of course, it will load up with cider and run that cider back to Liverpool. Now, we've got a short line here, but if we could run 4 trains on this little line, what are they going to do? They are going to load up with the goods that are needed in those cities. And notice here, we've got enough cider, so now we're going to pick up passengers. So now we've got full trains running back and forth. And the importance of that is that by having those full trains running immediately, we're doing 2 things. We're getting very good revenue as each train hits the other end. We're going to make good money on all 4 of those trains right off the bat. And we are starting to fuel the growth of each of these 2 cities. And so we're going to start, as we continue the growth, we demand for product, everything grows, and our trains stay closer and closer to full all the time, and we end up with a beautiful situation. So let me fast forward from here. I'm going to, no, wait, sorry. Never mind. No fast forward yet. here's the other thing we need to do. Now, we do have competition on our map. Now, I don't know where they are on this one. Where are they? Have we even seen? Oh, here we go. They're way down here, and they're up here above us somewhere. Probably, yeah, way up here. So they're actually pretty far away on this map. There are other maps where they're right next to you. And sometimes you'll start their practice literally right next to you. In fact, I'll intentionally start scenarios in a city that I know isn't recommended because I want them close, because I want that challenge. But here's what we do about the competition. We put 2 stations in each city. So there, now, how many of my competitors can come into Manchester and build? None. Because once you get 2 stations in a city, that city's locked up. Nobody else can come in there. So we want to fill up these cities with stations. So what we're going to do here, and again, this Leeds is a little bit tight, so we're going to make sure we can try our best to make it so we can put another station in there. We're also going to move it back this way to give ourselves room to get over that river before we have to build a bridge. We want to have enough room to build our double track or our junction on the land side of the city side of the river rather than the other side. Okay, so we're going to connect into that other station, that second station we put in Manchester, and that's going to give us the ability to build a line into Manchester. And then after we build this one out and double track it and put trains on it, and it will get the same kind of a deal. Now the goods in Manchester can be shipped to Leeds, and Leeds can ship to Manchester. We've got a nice connection there. Once we get it done, then we'll go ahead and do the same thing. Once we get that done, we'll put a station in here in what I call the back-to-back. So see how this one's turned this way? Then our next station will come in like this. See how this is all set up? We'll run it out here as far as we can, like that. Now we've locked up Leeds. So what we want to do is lock up 4 or 5 cities and keep expanding and doing that as much as it makes sense. So let me just kind of fast forward through that and show it all built out, and then I'll show you the next stage. Okay, so I've gone ahead and built out 4 cities connected: meat beer or ham cider, cider ham, ham cider, and now we've got 4 productive lines. If you're wondering why did I run 4 trains, I would refer you to the route optimization city to city video that I made long ago, where I studied what's the optimal number of trains to run in order to recoup your investment as quickly as possible. Now, phase 1 is to connect those 4 or 5 cities. And if we had the money and we had the time, depending on, again, our structure, we would go maybe to Hull and look for a meat, like to Nottingham, or we would go to the other end to our meat and look for another cider line, which really wouldn't be a very good choice on this one because we'd have to go way down here to Hereford to do that. So we probably, if we wanted to do 5, we would do Hull, maybe to Nottingham on this map would be a good choice. Or you could, well, here's another way you could go. You could go Leeds up to Middlesbrough. That would work as well and give you a ham cider line this way. That would be a good choice. So now, once you have this 4 to 5, and we've done back to back, and we've put, notice how these 2 now we've locked out the competition. Now on the ends where we're more vulnerable, we haven't, but we will quickly fix that. So what we want to do now is the next phase is we want to make sure that that beer meat or the ham cider continues to run, and we always have the ability to feed those goods into these 4 cities that we've selected. So what we're going to do now is run pigs into the ham here. We'll run apples directly into the Manchester, into the cider. We'll run pigs into the ham here, or else let it go over land. I would prefer to run it and get paid for it. Very profitable. Short freight lines are very profitable in this game. And then we want to get apples over here to Hull. So let me just go ahead and set that up, and we'll move on after that. This is just laying track, so we don't need to slow down and watch this. But the one thing I will, well, before I do that, I will mention what we want to do though on these in cities is make sure that we get that second station in there. So we're going to put in another station in Liverpool. Now we've got the competition boxed out of Liverpool, and we've got that city for ourselves, and that's a good thing. So with that point, let me fast forward now through this quick build and come back and talk about the next phase of a rapid expansion strategy. All right, so now we've been able to, notice it's still August of our first year. We now have meat running into our, pigs running into our ham. We have our ham producer. We have apples going into Manchester for the cider. We have pigs running into Leeds, and we have apples running into Hull. So now we've got the basics. Now at this point, we're kind of done with this, with the rapid expansion. And one thing we could do at this point, if we wanted to, we could start putting in maintenance, or I would recommend we skip that actually for now, and we would think about how do we want to grow the cities. And that would go to other strategies that we use, like 2 city clusters, 3 city cluster with a single warehouse, 4 city clusters, 3 city clusters. There's just, so many options out there for how we want to grow the cities. Or do we want to just keep expanding this model and going out and out and out? You notice our cities aren't quite growing, because what we're going to need now to really get them to grow is at least one more thing. So each of the cities is going to kind of need one more thing to push over the edge, because I'll bet if we look at these, they're all close to 60 and not quite. See that? So here we've got Liverpool. It's getting the ham, it's getting the cider, but it needs just a little bit more something to help it grow. And that's pretty typical of these maps. And a lot of it depends upon where the city's located and the resources around it. But we typically have to give it at least one more thing to get growth. So we would want to think about, again, this just depends on your city growth, and that's outside the scope of this little quick guide. So I wanted to show you this just to show you how to quickly get going. We're in August of our first year. We've got money coming in at a good rate. What did we do last quarter? We made 421,000 pounds of profit last quarter. That's excellent for this quickly into a scenario. So here we go. We've got 4 cities connected. We've got them all set up, ready to move into our next phase and decide what kind of growth we want. And we've got now a strong economic footprint, and we've locked our competition out of 4 cities that we're going to focus our growth on. And as I said, we could go out and expand this. We could do another rapid expansion and keep doing this concept. We could do whatever we liked at this point. So hopefully that shows you how to get started. This is a start you could use on so many scenarios depending on your task list. And here, we haven't even looked at this task list. Well, that one was obvious. Quarterly profit of 1.4 million pounds. We will easily do that once we keep going with our stuff. And you can see we could just adapt this to whatever we had to do in the strategy. But this just gets us off to a really quick start and just gives us strong lines, strong freight carrying. We're carrying passengers of mail. It goes on and on. So from this point, you would just pick your growth strategy or how you wanted to proceed to hit the specific task of your scenario, and this would get you off to a really good start. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it'll help you become a better player, and I hope you'll join us for our next Railway Empire video. Thank you.